What's up, guys? We got one here from The Wall. She underestimated him. Her girl's trip regret. Let's get into it.
I was dating a guy and he flew out another girl to stay with him while I was out of town. So let's set the scene. I meet this guy on Hinge, this was a couple years ago, and we'd been dating for about a month. And I had plans to go out of the country for about a week and a half, which he had known about since we first met. And about a week before I'm supposed to leave, he says, "Hey, there's something I want to talk to you about." I had told this girl who I know, who is from another state, we met, through mutual friends and stayed in touch, that she could come stay with me for a few days. Those dates coincided with when I was out of town. So he says, I had told this girl she could fly out and come stay with me, and if it makes you uncomfortable, I will cancel the trip and tell her not to come. So he was putting it on me to cancel this girl's flights. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm not making that decision for you. So I said,
It seems like he had this girl flying in first, but somehow he met this girl that's talking now. And I'm willing to bet, he kind of hit it off good with her, but she's going to be off on this trip, so he still has an opportunity to hang out with the first girl, and he's going to pick whichever one he likes the best. That's kind of what it seems like, or maybe he's just playing both of them. Who knows? Let's see where the story goes.
we're not exclusive. We've only known each other for a month. I want you to do what you would do in this situation. If, based on your own ethics and your own moral compass, you feel like it's not appropriate to fly out a girl from another state and have her stay with you while the girl you're dating that you really like is out of town, don't do it. If you feel like it is appropriate, then you should do it. And I will react to whatever decision you make in the way that I feel is appropriate. Now, you might be saying you're playing games, you're testing him, but the reality of it is none of that is true. I want to know the morals, the ethics, the behavior of the person I'm dating without me having to dictate that for them. So if you're the kind of person who wants to fly out a girl from another state and have her stay with you while the girl you like is out of town, maybe we're not compatible, but I don't want to have to tell you not to do that. Not my responsibility. So I said a nicer version of that, and he never brought it up again, and I went out of town, so I assumed that this girl just didn't come. And for a bunch of different reasons, I end up coming back from my trip like 2 or 3 days early. And the morning I get back, he says, "Hey, when you get back from the airport, let's go get breakfast." And I say, "Sure, I'm not doing anything." So we meet up for breakfast, and as we're leaving, I think I asked, like, "Hey, what happened with that girl? Like, how did you cancel her trip?" Because he hadn't said anything about it, so I was assuming that she didn't come. And he said, "Oh, I didn't. She ended up coming and staying with me." And I said, "Oh, when did she leave?" And he says, "She hasn't left. I'm going back to my house right now to drop her off at the airport." So he left this girl who flew out to stay with him to have breakfast with me and then told me about it. And then when I said, "Are you out of your mind?" he said, "I thought you would be flattered that I left her to hang out with you." So, yeah, I don't know. It's giving psycho. But I say all that because you don't necessarily need to dictate someone's behavior, especially in early dating. Let them show you who they are. Let them show you how they treat people they're dating, because that gives you all the information you need.
Sounds like he had was testing her boundaries and saw she had no boundaries. It's one of these, I thought you'd be flattered I ditched her for breakfast for you. I mean, that's kind of what it came off like. But we've officially entered his clown territory. This guy invites another woman to stay at his place while his kind of sort of maybe girlfriend is out of town. But he tells her only a week before she's supposed to leave. I mean, did I get that right? It was a week. Maybe it was a little longer than that. But anyways, it's real subtle there, Romeo. And then when she comes back a bit early, surprise, the house guest is still hanging around. And he's been rearranging her insides too. Like I said, he was trying to see where her boundaries were. And this is where boundaries in modern dating have gone MIA. Society's too busy preaching, do whatever feels good, and we've lost the basics of respect. This guy knew he wasn't in an exclusive relationship, so he used that loophole as his golden ticket to hedge his bets. I mean, why commit when you can keep 1 foot in and 1 foot out, right? Today's independent boss babe woman does 1 foot in, 1 foot out of relationships too, so why not men? It's like we're on this merry-go-round of options with no destination. People want to test each other's ethics without ever defining any real standards. Maybe it's time we stop letting social media and dating apps make a mockery of dating and bring back actual commitment. But who am I kidding? To some, integrity is about as outdated as flip phones.
Guys, if you want to find out if your partner's cheating on you, this is a good test to try. Of course, this isn't foolproof, but it's a good test to try, okay? And this applies to both men and women. Married and not married, okay? So one day, say you're in the kitchen with your partner, okay? Just tell your partner that a mutual friend has been cheated on recently and observe their reaction. If they respond quickly with concern, disgust, and surprise, like, I can't believe that person would do that person dirty like that, you're good to go. You're fine. But if your person gives you like a blank stare and they're clearly thinking, chances are they're thinking of their affair and they're thinking of their scenario and if maybe they'll get caught. Now, again, this isn't guaranteed, but it's a very good test, and I'm speaking from experience. So try that out, and hopefully your person passes the test.
It's another gotta love this cheating detection hack. I mean, just casually bring up infidelity at breakfast table and see if your partner's head spins like an owl. I mean, because nothing screams trust building like planting a seed of suspicion in your partner's mind. I mean, here's the thing, if you're already looking for clues to catch them in the act, the trust is already gone, and you're just on the sinking ship telling yourself that you're really testing them. Real relationships is built on trust, not mind games worthy of a bad soap opera. When did we get so jaded that our idea of intimacy is watching each other's reactions like a cop staking out a suspect? The real conspiracy is how society's made us all detectives in our own relationships. If your gut says something's wrong, maybe take the cue from old school methods, open up your mouth and actually talk about it. I mean, that's real groundbreaking stuff right there.
I've been married for 12 years, and in my marriage, I've gone through a separation, which I've talked about on my TikTok. If you don't know, you can go back, and I talked about how my marriage fell apart and what it taught me. But the one lesson that I wanted to share that I've learned after going through the separation with my husband, and we're still together, is that I've realized that you can do everything on your own. Like, I had this theory or like this, constant need of certain things that I just didn't feel like I could do. Like, when we went through the separation, it made me realize how dependent we become in a marriage, right? Because we both start relying on each other for certain things. And I think that is conducive and that is good for a marriage. But I think we should also adopt the mentality that we are capable of doing everything on our own, because we must learn to do things on our own, because it teaches us, one, things that we don't know how to do, and two, it builds self-confidence and independence, which I think women lack, because we've been grown up, especially in certain cultures, coming from a South Asian cultures, we are told that, our independence is very short, right? Like, go through school, and then right after that, you get married, and then you have a husband, and then he takes care of you. So that's like ingrained in our heads, in our minds for so many years, and so much conditioning has happened around that. Yes, you can rely on support versus need. Support versus dependence are two very different things. My husband very much supports me, but after the separation, I've also made it very clear that I am not dependent. I'm not dependent on you for anything. I have survived on my own, and I continue to survive on my own. And the only way I learned that is going through a separation. Yes, I want a strong support system, but I do not depend and rely on anyone, because I am an independent and strong woman that can pick herself back up when she falls.
She was doing all right until right there at the end. I mean, there was some truth there in it. But, independence, self-reliance is solid stuff there. Marriage shouldn't be an all or nothing support crunch where you're tied to someone just to function. It's like society has flip-flopped from depending on your spouse for everything to don't depend on anyone ever. So if you want a support system without dependency, I get it. But let's not pretend that this mindset doesn't come with some challenges. If you're building up this fortress of I can do it alone, you might miss out on real intimacy. Independence is great, but the reason humans have this thing called community is sometimes we need a hand, some help, and that doesn't make us weak. Point that I always try to get across to people that's in my inner circle. The elite and media's constant drumbeat for rugged individualism just leads us to a society where everyone's an island and cut off and isolated. Maybe the real message here isn't to ditch independence, but to redefine it. After all, it's okay to lean on someone without crumbling into a dependent mess.
This is part one of me finding my fiance naked with his married coworker on my wedding day. So we started dating in 2014, and we were supposed to get married September 30th, 2017. In the days leading up to the wedding, it was 5 days before, like, something just not right with this one girl that he worked with. And I asked him about it, and he's like, "You're crazy, there's nothing going on, yada yada." 5 days before the wedding, he's like, you don't trust me enough to get married. We need to postpone. Like, my whole life is falling apart, or that's how I felt at that time. We had met with our marriage counselors, and they were like, Kirsten, there's nothing going on. Like, he says there's nothing going on. There's nothing going on. We call off the wedding. I'm like very anxiety ridden because I'm like, okay, either he's cheating on me or like I've completely lost touch with reality. We made the decision that we would remain together and work on building trust. He told me that like it was my fault that we weren't going to get married, and it was just because I didn't trust him enough. So anyway, fast forward, it's September 30th, our wedding day, and I unlocked the door to the house that I had bought for us. So he had none of his own money in the house. I did the entire down payment, put it in both of our names. So I unlock the door to this house and walk inside, and he is butt naked.
Ouch. The fiance is caught naked with a coworker saga. I mean, how many times have we heard this story? But on our wedding day, no less, can we pause for a moment to give this guy a medal for peak scumbaggery? I am not a person that advocates cheating ever. I mean, I don't care, man or woman. If you feel like you have a need that you need to go from person to person, don't be in a relationship. Or if you're in a relationship and you want to go off and be with somebody else, end it before you go do that stuff. I mean, come on. But this guy turns around and blames her for not trusting him, only to get caught pantsless with his work woman. He's a real class act. But this is for both men and women. Both sides are guilty of this. If you don't want to be exclusive to someone, that's perfectly fine. Set that expectation right away and don't lead them on believing that you're 100% with them and then pull this shit. Society just loves gaslighting people who catch on to red flags. It's like you're paranoid. It's all in your head, and it's surprise you walk into a disaster on your wedding day. I mean, the problem here is that the culture surrounding relationships is rigged with double standards. Marriage counselors, family, friends, all lined up to back this guy up and painted her as the problem. And to me, that's just fucked up. Especially if a counselor, if you're both there to work through something, the counselor sides with one person, find a new counselor. The elites, media, and corporations, they profit off of this dysfunctional cycle, feeding us romantic lies while society crumbles, and it's all a scam to keep us distracted from real issues. But congrats to her family for finally unmasking the wolf in sheep's clothing. And the moral of this story is trust your instincts, even when society tries to convince you otherwise. Anyways, guys, modern dating, marriage, family dynamics are just in a complete shambles. It's torn apart by instant gratification, social media, and a culture that prizes independence over interdependence. And everyone's out here playing detective or testing each other with ethics because real communication has been replaced with mind games. I mean, go figure. But who profits from all of this? The elites, corporations, social media giants who thrive on our dysfunction, feeding us endless options and promises of the next best thing. Problem is to keep us chasing for the next best thing. That dopamine hit is never going to bring us happiness. The fix is to rebuild our trust from the ground up. Stop relying on these cheating hacks and open the door for real communication. Bring back respect in dating. If it's exclusive, say it. If it's not, set that expectation right away. I've said it multiple times in this video. Recognize independence, yes, but don't let it wall you off from a connection. And the most importantly, realize that intimacy means vulnerability, not treating each other like suspects in a crime drama. Don't buy into the illusion that constant independence equals strength. True strength is having a choice to rely on someone and knowing that it's okay. Anyways, guys, it's the end of the video here. If you like what you've seen today, hit that like button, share, subscribe. Drop me a comment down below on what you think, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.